And we are live. It is episode 26 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. I am your humble, trying to get as much as I can out of the struggle host, Sinceneo. For those that know, those that have been with us now, we are 26 episodes in. Super thankful for the people who constantly tune in on all different platforms. But Alfluent, how are you doing?
Affluent in the building. It's a great day. The feeding is tomorrow, and you know we averted a coup in the White House, and uh, Kamala Harris dropped the dressing recipe. She
What
dropped
a
the
time.
cornbread dressing recipe. So 2020 is in full effect still.
What a
It's
time
as
to be
weird
alive.
weird as it can be.
What a time. What a time. What a time. What a time indeed. This is a time. This is episode 26 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. And we have a special guest.
Finally,
Bspokeit. Bspokeit. How are you
finally.
doing?
Yo, so it's 10 o'clock where I am. It's almost 10:30 where I am. So I am good for it. The fact that it's almost 11. But it's all right. My whole life, even though I'm on the East Coast now, my whole life still functions on West Coast time. Like my job is West Coast. All my art projects and creative stuff is still West Coast. So I'm doing good. I drank coffee before I came here, so I'm good.
That's what's that we appreciate that. We appreciate you putting forth the effort, the energy, the time. Thank you for gracing us, like so gracious for you to be here in all your glory. But more importantly, what is the connection between Bspokeit and lyrical opposition?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, so let me take you back on a little bit of history. I moved to the Bay Area from Colorado in 2015. My second day in the city, I went to a show that Lyrical Ops was doing. My best friend brought me there, and she goes up to one of the guys, hosting the event. And it's like, "This is my girl, Brittany. She's a poet. She just like want to learn a little bit more about y'all and what you do." And then it was like, "Oh, hey, nice to meet you. Okay, bye." And then 2 weeks later, I ended up at another event that Ella was doing. And it was vibing. It was really, really dope. I went there straight from work. And this was before I realized that Bay Area work clothes culture is totally different than traditional corporate style. So I was like in a suit. And it's vibing. Everybody's feeling great. And somebody on the stage goes, "So we hear there's somebody in the room who's interested in joining our crew." And I'm like, "Ooh, this is going to be so good." And they're like, "Is there a Brittany Williams in the house?" And I'm like, "Ooh, a Brittany. Ooh, that sounds like my name. Is that me?" And I look up and they are looking at me. I look over at my best friend like, "I'm going to murder you." And she gives me the look like, "I am so sorry." I go up on the stage petrified that they're about to make me like freestyle or something, which I admittedly do not do. And they're like, "So we hear you're a poet." And I'm like, "Yeah." "Hey, you're interested in joining our crew?" And I was like, "Sure." "Great, you're in the crew." Takes the necklace off, puts it on me. And without knowing a thing, that very one, without knowing a thing about Lyrical Ops, except that it's a group of poets or anything else, I was in the crew. About a month later, I found out exactly what Lyrical Ops was and started working with the admin team to help plan shows, prepare events, network, and connect with other organizations in the community. And then about 4 months after that, I started performing as a lyrical ops poet. So my journey with LO is, in short, there would be no Bspokeit the poet without lyrical opposition.
That is very unique. I mean, everybody that we've brought on that has ties or is a part of the lyrical opposition family, it is very unique stories. And I have to say, by far, that's the one that stands out to me because it's like how like that to me is more representative of what I've come to know with lyrical opposition in the sense of like, hey, if you didn't know, you're a part of it now. And it's like that's kind of how it gets down. Like you don't know, like I say it again, I'll say it now. You are chosen as much as you choose to be. So thank you for taking that opportunity to actually get on stage, because most people have been like, I'm headed for the exit. But you actually was like, you know what? I'm gonna just go with it and we're gonna see what happens. And time tells, and we were able to connect through a fellow lyrical opposition member, Figo. We were able to do a performance together. It was an incredible performance. It was at the Berkeley Museum. And speaking to that performance, you are a poet, but what are some of the other talents that you hold?
I know what you're getting at. You're trying to get people to know that I sing, which I do sing. I am not singing tonight.
It's all good. I
do
feel it. It's a
sing.
stretch.
I also draw and I paint.
Hey, hey.
And I design things. I sew. I'm a project manager. Like I have my hands in so many different creative projects. I just started making my own soaps and body oils. So yeah, I got a lot of creative stuff going on, but I know what you were getting at.
I mean, I couldn't help myself, because I remember we was in the room, we was in the living room, and I was like, what we doing? I'm like, oh, we gonna kill this. But more importantly, I'm not gonna put too much on it, because there's a time and place for everything, and right now is not time, not the place. But I do want people to be aware of kind of the space that you hold when you come into a space, right? Because it is on one end what you can do, but it's also who you are as a person. Because what I've noticed is that you definitely have a lot of presence, right? Like when you step into a space, right, it's either we gonna know who you are or we gonna find out. Like there ain't no ifs, ands, buts about it, right? Like you gonna either speak up or somebody gonna get you to speak up, because again, it's just who you are and what I've seen. So how did you get the name Bspokeit?
Ooh, okay. I like this story too. So my first stage name was, now I don't remember. Alex, do you remember my original stage name? Alex is so still and quiet.
Look, he just gonna say the name. That's it. He's like, that was the name.
No, it was something else that I cannot remember right now, which is probably for the best.
Speaks it.
It was Bspeaks. That's what it was.
Bspeaks. Okay.
It was Bspeaks. And I ended up changing it after going through some changes in my own life. I feel like my whole life in the Bay was just like this constant metamorphosis, constant changing. Alex was there with me through so much of it. And one day I got up and I was thinking about the concept of something handmade, something custom made. So the term for custom made in Britain, where my family is from, is bespoke, custom. So I was like, everything I make is custom made. It's handmade. It comes crafted directly from myself. There's nothing else like it because I made it. It's bespoke. It. And then I like the concept of having at the moment, my original name was Bespeaks, as in I'm speaking. But I loved the idea of manifesting things that I spoke. So I spoke it and then it happened. I loved that idea. So my name Bspokeit is a play on those two concepts. Something custom made that I spoke into existence is what my name means.
A whole lot. That's a lot of layers right there. That's a whole, hold on, let's take it back. Mm-hmm. I'm about to be butchering all kinds of accents because I can't do none of them. In it.
Oh, darling. Oh dear. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's kind of all right.
It's so dope, isn't it? It's so fresh, isn't it? But anyways, I couldn't help it because as soon as you said it, I was like, wait, that takes a whole nother level and meaning, right? To have kind of that historical legacy, lineage, identity that exists outside of the scope of the American dynamics, but is also very much rooted within kind of the American dynamics. And then see that the bespoke, right? Like that original kind of tailor-made, fit for one, at the same time, be able to speak things into existence. I'm like, okay, my mind is melting. I am definitely... For those that don't know, I like this show. We always do our little endorsements. There's a show called Man Like Mobeen on Netflix. I love it. Chewing Gum, I love it as well. Actually, the creator, she is incredible. She has a new show on HBO, but by like you see, like this is the creative flow and juices like that permeates from the other land, right? The other motherland, if you will, in terms of just kind of that American sauce. And so that is crazy that you have those layers, meanings, and kind of it's just I don't know, foundational like just characteristics of who you are. Like, because I mean, like I said, when you come into a space, that's why I had that figured out. Like, you really like you own the space that you in, and you speak with such a command, right? Such of a confidence, but also like it's it's like it's calming, it's
Authority.
soothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's just like, how do you come up? How do you even have a name that is so representative of like they kind of it just coincides with who you are, right? Like,
Mm.
it's some people they have names and they kind of grow into the definition before you can really figure out what the name is, right? Like someone to tell you a name, they are the ones that define it. But with your name, it's like literally as soon as you get that name, Bspokeit, it's like, and then when you see the person, it's instantaneous. It's not even like a time period or a learning curve or a process. It's like you can see it as soon as a person come in the room. Like, okay, all right, now we got to back down. We got to back up. Okay. As you seen on the bottom of the screen, for those that don't have the ability to watch the video, that aren't watching it live, that won't see this, at Bspokeit for the ability to connect. Bspokeit the poet on Facebook, bspokeitpoetry.com, right? That's B as in boy, S as in Sam, P as in Paul, O as in opiates, K as in key, E as in Edward, I as in Iowa, and T as in Terry. Bspokeit. Okay, so get connected, right? Be familiar. I had to throw in them little, some
Yeah.
dark dips in terms of wordplay, but more importantly, like, kind of what was like, take us back. Like, how did you get into the art and the world of poetry, into words?
Yeah. So, like a lot of us millennials, I come from a pretty dysfunctional family, beautiful family, love my people, but we grew up kind of crazy. And my brothers, I'm a daughter of two immigrant parents. The only girl in a family of three children. So I have two brothers. One of them is my twin brother. And my brothers dealt with the turmoil that we were all experiencing very outwardly. And I dealt with mine very inwardly. And so I experienced anxiety and depression from a very, very, very young age. Something I still work through. Thank God for poetry and therapy. But at the time, there was no such thing as therapy. So I started writing when my mom gave me a journal when I was in fifth grade. She noticed that I like to write stories. And my teachers had told her that I was a good writer and that she should provide me with more opportunities to tell stories. So she gave me a journal. And I think within the first couple of weeks, I filled up that journal, asked for another one, filled up that journal, asked for another one. And by the time I got to high school, I had just stacks of journals where I had written stories, thoughts, poetry, all kinds of things. Excuse me. And so what started off as my own personal way of coping with life, I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't even know what spoken word was until I got to senior year in high school. I was literally dragged to an open mic at a coffee shop not too far from my neighborhood. And a friend of mine was like, "You gotta hear these people, they're dope." And I'm like, whatever. Listened to it and I was like, "Oh, that's really cool." Was super intimidated. The whole time I was like, well, that's great for them, but I'm not getting up there. And as soon as I had that thought, the guy moderating the event was like, "Anybody in the room want to share?" And my friend just goes, "She does." And I'm looking at him like, "Excuse you, rude."
You know how to pick though. You know how to pick your friends.
I'm telling you. The cool thing about that moment though is something in me told me not to walk away from it. So I said, okay. And I had just written this piece at school that day. So I went up there and read it. And the person moderating the event happened to be one of the senior English teachers at my school. I'd never met him, but he was also the the sponsor of the poetry club. Didn't even know my school had a poetry club. He ended up inviting me to join the club, and in turn ended up inviting me to be on this TV show that his class was helping to produce for an HBO series that Robert Townsend was producing. And that's kind of where it got started. I did some work in college, but I was really struggling with my identity as a person, much less an artist. So I kept a lot of my art to myself, trying to figure out what to do with it. Worked for a couple of churches doing creative arts and poetry stuff. And that was cool, but it still wasn't like all what I really wanted to do. Moved to Colorado and didn't touch poetry for 2 years. And literally that day I got to the Bay Area and met Lyrical Opposition was like the fire stick to this bottle of gasoline I had been walking around with for like 25 years. So yeah.
Exactly. Pretty much. For those that couldn't tell, Affluent just blew up on the screen. It's so real because it's like, just in that 2 year gap, right? To have to go through that moment where it's almost like you like as a creative, right? I don't want to make the assumption, but I can relate in the sense that sometimes you just have those moments where you got to kind of just let it be, and things just kind of happen. You live things, you go through processes, and yeah, like Alfluent said, you know how to pick your friends. Where there's gonna be these situations where people see you and know you enough to know, like, psh, you got it. You got this. Even if you don't see it, even if you don't even realize it or own it in that moment, people around you gonna be like, that, hey, her right there, she got this.
Let me tell you, most every major thing in my life that's happened to me, I didn't go out and find it. I didn't go out and make it happen. Somebody literally like dragged me to it, or it just came to me. I'm standing there minding my own business. So it's like, oh, hey, by the way. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Thank you. Or no, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. Oh, this was great. Literally, that's how my life has gone.
That's incredible. I mean, that speaks to like purpose, but also like community, right? Like the people around you and them knowing who you are as a person and being in tune with you, even when you might not be in tune with the situation or what's around you in the surrounding areas. People see like, there's something about you. I need to bring you to this so you can be a part of this, so you can do what you need to do so people can see it. Because it is a thing where, like I said, like once people meet you, it's one of those things where like she about it. Like whatever she about it. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like Bspokeit, but be also like is about it, right? It ain't just spoke it's about it. So with that comes like a level of responsibility, but I feel like with that comes a lot in terms of history, a lot in terms of identity that goes before who you are, right? And to me, I'm interested, since you did bring it up, like where did you grow up? Like where is the foundational roots for you, and like what did it look like? Where were you? What did the outside the house, what was the school like? Where was that at? Where did that transformation and foundation come from?
Yeah. So let me start. Let me see where I start. So my parents separated when I was young. And then, but their separation was really weird. Like there was never like a full separation. So we grew up kind of like back and forth, like kind of will they, won't they? Will they, won't they? They eventually ended up, won't they? And by then, we were all grown and it was like, whatever y'all do is cool with us. We're just trying to live life. So there was a lot of that, just the ground always feeling like it's not too stable under your feet feeling. I grew up with that feeling. And then at school, I guess that uncertainty drove me to be very driven to be successful in school. So at school, I was the go to school, keep your head down, get your work done type of person. Top of class, all A's, like be academics, be successful, be successful, be successful. Like whatever you do in school, you have to excel at, because we have to make sure that something good comes out of this is the mindset I always had, growing up. which was really funny because both of my brothers were like the most popular people in school. And whenever anybody found out we were related, they were shocked. I was the quiet nerd kid who was in the AP classes that nobody really knew. The only time I was known was in marching band on the performance field. But other than that, like when I was performing or doing something in those spaces, either in music, I played all kinds of instruments growing up. I played saxophone, I played viola, I played piano, I played drums, played some guitar. So whenever I was in some kind of performance space, everything was all about excel, 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 excel. So my identity really became this like driven to be successful, which ended up, it's not a bad thing because it gave me a lot of discipline, but I feel like it hindered my personality in a way because I became this obsessed perfectionist kind of human. And that's what I love about being a poet now, because I feel like my work, even in my work, I'm getting the opportunity to reverse all of that and just be a human, be a person, versus just being this driven to succeed creature.
No, I feel it. I mean, it's that whole identity of like needing to perform, like, I mean, because the thing that to me the connection is, right, we talked about it many times on this podcast around the idea of industrialism, right, the whole input output, right, and like how they being those who are the orchestrators of society, creating these systems for us to be producers, right, like we got to produce results, right, we got to produce, and here you took it upon yourself in a sense as a reaction to what's going on at home to be like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna use this as a way to just distract myself, right, to give myself kind of my own carrot on the stick. There ain't nothing stable here, I can't control it, but I can control this game. I can control it, I can take it over, and I could just manipulate it to my will and get lost in it, right, lost in the routine of like accomplishment. But also that speaks to work ethic, that speaks to discipline, that speaks to practice, right? And so it's these kind of these two different things where on one end it's like, yeah, you can lose sight of individuality when you see every goal in front of you, right? Because it's just like, I don't have time to stop and smell the roses unless I'm growing them, right? If I'm not growing them, if I'm not watering, tending to them, if I'm not the one that's gonna snip cut, then I'm running to the goal, right? I don't have time to do anything other than what's the next opportunity for growth or the next achievement in the pathway. And I think that, it is easy for people to lose sight of how, even though it's great in the scope of what society says, you don't really get the time to step back and reflect on who you are, and which, what is your personal wants, your needs, right? What is the other languages besides the ones you're learning that you need for you to love yourself, pour into yourself, and take care of you. And so to me, it's like who was there anybody around you that also gave you that same outlook on terms of work and discipline, like the need? Because to just snap and be like, I'm on it is one thing, but did you also see someone else that was like, they had a work ethic or a drive or just that want of more that made you feel like, you know what, I'm gonna do it for me?
Yeah, actually, so my family background is West Indian. So my mom is British, but my grandparents were Jamaican. And if you know anything about Jamaicans always have like 4 or 5 jobs. Jamaicans be working.
I was just trying to get to it without getting to it, because I was like, for her to have this hustle, I'm like, somewhere in there gotta be some Jamaican blood, because even though it is a gross stereotype to make, you cannot deny they have hustle, right? Yes. They gonna figure out a way out of no way.
Oh, that is literally the definition of my mother. And she is the person. I watched her and I saw how no matter what, she was making it happen. She was always working, always like, I'm going to handle this. I'm going to handle this. I'm going to handle this. And I am literally her mini child. I'm her mini person. So, but it's so crazy that you even mentioned that, because I tell people all the time, I feel like I'm Benjamin Button, like living in reverse. Because now that I'm back in Atlanta and close to my family, I'm able to see how those things like that were great to help us survive. But that kind of mindset is not good for thriving, because it burns you out. It's like, I don't know if you know anything about gardening. I'm a plant nerd. But when you're planting something, you can't plant it with the same tools that you would dig it up. You need different tools. And I feel like that grind mindset is good in some seasons. But if you try to operate like that all the time, you're going to die early. And so I'm in the process now of even trying to walk that back, even with my own mom, with my own family. Like, we want you to last. I don't have children yet. I don't know how to do that. I need you to be around long enough to help me. So you need to chill. So, yeah.
Balance.
Mm-hmm. Come on, reverb on the mic.
It's one of those things people
Bspokeit, I got a question.
Yes.
What was the healing metamorphic work like for you in terms of your working on your identity?
That's a good question. I'm going to say it's still happening. It's still in the process. Where it started, oh gosh, I don't even know where it started. It started with a lot of brokenness. You know, healing always starts with recognizing this is broken as hell. How do we stop this cycle of broken? But really where it started for me is getting really, really painfully, grotesquely honest with myself about the things that have caused all the brokenness in my life. And then being very patient with myself along the process to healing. Being willing to put down and let go of things that don't work, even if they were traditional or however long I've been practicing them or whatever. When they no longer serve me, put them down and pick up something that works. And understanding that I'm constantly going to be growing, changing, and evolving. And as long as who I am at my core does not change and get corrupted, it's okay to change whatever else is going to move us forward. And that's been a really important process in my healing journey. When I really kind of came to terms, so the way I grew up in a very Christian centered home, very Pentecostal upbringing. There's like no such thing as depressed or anxious Christians because that wasn't of God. So I did not even get a handle on what I was experiencing until I was in my adulthood. And then recognizing, oh, this is anxiety. This is depression. This is not something that you can just like speak in tongues or pray away and it leaves. This is a process of healing that you have to go on. This is going to require tools that I don't have. So let me go get some. Let me go listen to some podcasts. Let me go get a therapist. Let me go learn yoga, meditation. Let me go learn all these things on top of scripture and prayer. Those things are great, but they aren't the fix it all to everything. Let me get in community with some people who understand what I'm dealing with, so I can talk to them. I can call them when I'm in the middle of a crisis and they can, talk with me. So my to answer your question, Alex, my healing journey has been one of extreme evolution. Lots of changing, but brutal, deep, and not brutal as in like evil, but just really raw honesty. Like, oh, girl, I know that this space that you were raised in teaches you to keep up these appearances, but these appearances are going to crush you. Do you want to live or do you want to look good? Which one?
That's real. I was talking to some family earlier today, actually, about the difference between playing injured and playing through pain. And a lot of times when you don't know like about your depression or your anxiety or what you're dealing with, it's like playing injured. And the more you play that way, the more the worse it is to get through, the harder it is to heal. And you're really kind of burying the injury. And playing through pain is different because there's always conflict. There's always things that will throw you off balance. There's always things that you need to work on that will come up in a day, in a week, in a month. But the injury is usually something that happened a long time ago. And you kind of play it, you just like living life, finding a way to get the job done without healing. And it's cool that you said, let me get some tools, because when you're playing through pain, right, you can put some ice on it, you can wrap it, you can put it in a brace, and the muscle will be okay. You can work through it. But when you're playing injured, none of those things work.
Mm-hmm.
None of those things work when it comes to healing. And your perspective was, let me get some tools. Let me round out my resources for healing. Let me fill up my first aid kit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the wellness package that I have is not quite enough right now.
Yeah.
You know, and for you to acknowledge that is a great awareness, but it also means that you were diving deep to see yourself, not to be seen by others and and what they see in you, but to really take a look at what you see in yourself. Um, and I think that's probably why you show up with so much presence, because you have this grasp on your identity, and so there's this clarity that you enter in a room with,
Mm-hmm.
where it's not people's eyes or their perspective or their words or their jeers or cheers that are changing who you are. So no matter what you speak into existence, it is regardless of what they say. And I think that speaks to your presence, and it's a testament to your presence on in this space, but also anytime that I see you on stage or I hear you speak um, to people, like I know that it comes from a place of effort, toward your own understanding, and how you have been designed and how you fit into the world,
Mm-hmm.
um, versus how the world fits you. Um, so yes, it's cool.
I love that. Thank you, Alex.
I mean, I also want to touch on just a couple things, like just the way that you responded and how it really sums up a lot of what we've talked about in previous episodes. I mean, in some regards, this podcast was born out of the harm that was existing in the period of time that we were all experiencing back in May, right? Like we are experiencing extreme harm and we're hurting and we're trying to find a way to heal, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to repair the harm. And so we come together, we have these conversations, and we start to discover or share the things that we feel like kind of are useful in our process of healing, right? And you brought up community. You brought up identifying maybe this is the opportunity for me to go and seek out professional help in a different regard or different respect to get some more tools, right? You're talking about faith. You're talking about holistic perspective on yoga, on, kind of how you're treating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What are the things that you're doing in every facet of your life that are a reflection of you gaining some sense of healing, some sense of wellness, right? And it's profound because as you hit every marker and I hear it, I'm like, okay, yes, this is what the conversation, like, in terms of us being people of color, us being black, us being in America right now at this period of time, especially when it's easy for a lot of our allies to kind of be like, oh, we good now, right? Because we ain't got nobody trying to overthrow the government. It's like, no, 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 no. You don't understand. It ain't nothing good. This
Mm-hmm.
is how we got here because we kept thinking it was cool and it's not cool. And so it is that how do we sustain ourselves, right? Because you said that as well. It's like, if I'm going to be around, how do I make this sustainable? How do I make sure that I'm here for the long haul? Because it is a thing where if I keep pushing, driving, if I mean, we've lost a lot of great individuals just off of that I need to go and get it mentality, right? I'm going to ignore the pain. I'm going to ignore the injury. I'm going to ignore how detrimental it is to my health. I'm going to push through and push past and find these easy fixes when ain't no easy fixes. And they get lost in the sauce and we don't have them anymore, right? And so, I just want to commend you and appreciate the fact that you said those things, that you were so open, honest, and vulnerable with it, because it is something that oftentimes we don't want to take the time to really go deep and talk about and discover, right? And I think it's profound that you were able to kind of see it in such an array, right? In a multitude, in a spectrum, to be like, it ain't just one thing I need to do. It's all these things I need to access. It's all these different pieces I need to pull together to create my net to really embrace me as I need to fall back, right? As I need to sit back. I need a hammock. How do you make the hammock, right? And it's every thread that intersects and connects. And I think that's an amazing and beautiful thing, because we live at a time right now where people keep thinking that these systems that they gave us are sufficient, when in reality these systems was just made to suppress and just keep us controlled. And I think that you taking the reins and being like, nah, I got to do this for me, is you now being a beacon for people to see, to kind of have that light shed on what it means to really think deeper about yourself, about just who you are as an individual. So, you know, in that scope, what do you like? Was it a gradual process, or was it like something distinct where you're like, you know what? I need to start this journey now, right? I need to start, because you said it, you're still on the path of doing it. And as we love to say, it's about practice, right? How do you maintain the same form under pressure over time, right? How do you maintain consistency, right? To sustain yourself through the actual movement. And I think that for you to say all that, do you recall or even think there was a moment where it was like, you know what, this is me realizing I got to go this way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Before I answer that, though, I do want to say something based on what we just talked about. We as a community, as people of color in this country, need to understand that we're not just dealing with the trauma that we're experiencing right now in like 2020. And we're not just dealing with the trauma that we experience individually as we go throughout our own individual lives. We are dealing with the trauma of generations, of generations, of generations. Like, that stuff is passed down through the blood. There are times where, like, I don't know about y'all, but I can't watch movies about slavery and stuff like that, because it does something physically to my body that takes me days to process and work out of, because my body is responding to the trauma of my ancestors. And I feel like if more of us would start thinking that way, we would create space for each other to just not be okay. So then we can start developing these communities and these safe spaces, and like taking down the stigma of Black people going to therapy and Black people just not being okay. Like, it's okay for us not to be okay. We got a right to not be okay. And once we recognize that, we also need to be creating safe spaces for each other to heal. Like, we shouldn't have to be going outside of our communities to find that healing. But too often we don't create those spaces for each other. We ridicule each other for having anxiety or depression. We call each other soft, or you ain't hard, or you ain't real, or you ain't whatever. We as people of color, if we really want to heal, we have to be the ones to start making that space for each other. So I want to say that first.
True.
So yes, there was a time, actually. There was a time when I realized, like, you know what, something's got to give. When and I actually wrote a poem about this called At 31. And I wrote it at 31, but the journey actually started for me at 29. When I was 29, I had an epiphany that I'm about to be 30 years old. It was on my 29th birthday. So I'm going to be 30 years old next year. And I did an assessment of my 20s. And what I did is I sat down and I said, okay, from 19 to 29, show me the moments where you were truly happy. Like, you didn't make it up. You didn't count it all joy. You weren't trying to persist in hope and faith. You were genuinely happy. And I could not find a lot of them, because what I realized is that most of my 20s was just trying to survive it. And so I decided I don't want my 30s to look like my 20s. So what do we got to do differently to make sure that we don't live another decade like that? And so I sat down with my journal and I wrote out what I wanted my 30s to look like, that I wanted it to be full of joy, full of love, full of, abundance, full of creativity, full of adventure, full of all these things. And don't get me wrong, I did some really cool stuff in my 20s. Like, I traveled the world in my 20s. I did all these things in my 20s. It was great. I lived in Italy. It was great. Like, I did a lot of cool things. But because there wasn't peace in my internal world, a lot of that is colored with this air of it, with this air of some sadness, because I couldn't figure out how to be at peace within myself. So I was like, okay, what do we got to do in our 30s to make sure that we don't miss the good things in life because we're so stressed out on the inside? And it's so funny because I was having this conversation with my big brother the other day, and we were both just kind of evaluating some things. And my brother, he's living his best life right now. Like, he's got like a dream job. He just moved into a new house. He's about to have a new baby. And he's like, but I'm not happy. What's wrong? And we did realize, like, I'm dealing with PTSD because I went through so much stuff and I haven't taken the time to really process and heal from it so I can enjoy these moments. So I had that moment at 29 and realized, like, I'm going to have to do whatever I got to do to make sure that pain and sadness and struggle does not define my life. Yes, it's inevitable. It's life. It will happen, but it does not have to be the definition of my life if I learn how to make sure that my inner world is at peace. And that's where I started my honest poet movement for myself. Like, if I'm going to be a poet and I'm going to be an artist and I'm going to be a writer, I'm going to write about real shit. I'm not going to write about this flowery stuff unless somebody is paying me to write something flowery, because sometimes I get paid just to write flowery stuff, and that's fine. But that was my one. I got two left. But if I'm going to write the kind of things that matter, it has got to come from a real, authentic place, even if it's ugly. And so I went through that process of really changing and evaluating that. And this real talk, what it really has come down to is me just being really selfish. And I don't mean selfish in a bad way. I mean selfish in the way that I want to be the best that I can be. The people who love me, I want to be able to give them my best, which means I have to be my best, which means I can't always be on or giving or sharing everything. Some things have to be just mine so that I can give the best I have to the people that need it and that I want to give it to. So yeah, that's the answer to that question.
I mean, I appreciate it. Just because, like, when you said that, like, it reminded me of when I was like wild and 25 and I was getting ready to be 26, and 26 was like that moment where I was like, okay, let's go a little scientific, little, prefrontal cortex usually is done developing around the age of 26, right? Mm-hmm. Now, the thing is, in society, we create safeguards that can help people in terms of not giving into impulse, right? Because that's what the prefrontal cortex is doing. It is helping you with impulsive decisions. It's helping you, well, actually, in this context, when you're younger, right? When you're just an adult, right? You can do what you want, as they say, but your brain isn't at the point yet where it can make and decipher those decisions, right? So when you're saying all that, it's reminding me of when I felt like I had an aha moment, and I didn't know it at the time until later. And I really looked deeper into it. It was like, oh, well, my brain might have just caught up to where my heart wanted to be. Right. And so I started realizing, okay, I was starting to put certain things into practice, but I wasn't there yet. I was engaged in toxic behaviors. I was engaged in toxic relationships. I was coming from a toxic household, right? I'm, in the music that I make, oftentimes I refer back to what I grew up in. And as you said it earlier in this conversation, was like, I love the people who raised me and I'm thankful for them, but I can't ignore the things they didn't know. I can't ignore the things that they failed, and I can't ignore where they had their shortcomings, right? Because again, if I'm going to be honest with myself, I have to be honest with the people around me in hopes that honesty will give them the chance to grow and excel and exceed and be their best self, right? And so when I'm hearing you say that and you had that moment where you're like, you know what? I'm realizing, even if I had a happy moment, was I really happy in those moments, in a whole self and my whole being, in my heart and my mind? Am I able to really reflect back and say there was a purity in it, right? Because it's not to say that you yourself are going to be this kind of like the best of what the world has to offer, but you can be the best you. You can be better than what you were yesterday. You can love yourself more today than you did yesterday. You can enjoy yourself more, right? If you choose to, if you make that choice, right? Because at the end of the day, you only have your perspective, you only have your mind, your heart, your soul. And when you said those things, it really resonated with me in my moments of like, I'm in crisis, right? I need help. I need to figure it out. I need to get my network, my community, my people, myself together to figure out. And then to go into it, you said selfish, right? And I can agree. People have to understand what that balance is like between being selfish and then being a person that is a part of the world, right? It is a balance because so often we get so used to the idea of like family first. Your job comes first. You gonna let them get in the way of your check, or your education's first. We put all these things first, but we never talk about putting yourself first. You come first, right? Like, oh no, it's for your team. Your team comes before you. No, 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 no. I gotta be a part of the team. I have to be a part of it. Forget what the word says. I gotta be here. Rearrange them words, rearrange the letters. It's me in the middle of all that then.
Right. There's me and team.
There's me and team. All right. So at the end of the day, right, we have to really think about what it means to be selfish in a healthy way, right? Not in a way that is like overflowing, pouring into yourself, right? Because too much anything is bad, right? The dosage makes the poison. The dosage makes the poison. But you got to give to you. You got to make sure that you can take care of you, that you are fulfilled, that you are happy. And I think it's essential that people really understand what it means to find that balance for themselves, because it is different for everyone, right? Everybody's gonna have their way. You could tell a person drink some water. It's on them to want to actually drink it. Some people might run to the soda. Hey, that's on you. But you're gonna need something to drink. And how much of that, right, is going to be the determining factor of what you need. And I think, yes, selfishness is a thing that we have to understand. We have to practice, because so often we talk about sharing. Look, taxes is sharing enough. Y'all get enough of me out of these taxes, okay? Y'all,
Come
I
on.
share without. I don't get to choose, all right? I don't get to pick, right? And if I do, it's against me. So again, selfishness is necessary because again, you create what that looks like and you figure out what that balance is. But you need to know what it means to love you first, to enjoy you first, and to find wellness and peace within you first. So, kind of going down that thread. I mean, what is it that like now the practices are for you, right? You've kind of stated what were the things that you found, but you said that you've kind of moved around where you went from Colorado, you were in Cali, now you're closer to your family. How do you maintain those boundaries in that space in a sense of returning back, right? Like, how do you define what you need for yourself amongst the people that you love or the people that you need, right? Because I think that's another thing, is that boundaries, capacities are necessary to communicate. And so what does that look like for you?
Ooh. Okay, that is a really good question, because literally my family and I are in the process of trying to figure that out right now. Before I get into that, though, I want to say I love everything that you just said, because you can't love and cherish and care for other people if you don't do that for yourself. And I just learned that the hard way, in this relationship that I just got out of. If somebody does not love themselves, you can't expect them to love you. You can't expect them to give you what they can't give to themselves. So my thing is like, and I'm not saying selfish as in like this person is stingy and they don't want to help nobody. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if somebody has not gotten to the point where they're like, I love myself. I think I am the bomb. I take good care of myself. I want the best for myself because I want to be the best to give. If that person hasn't gotten there, you ain't gonna get anything good from them. But
Well,
I just,
it's like this.
yeah,
It's like the best member on a team is the one who knows their capacity and knows their limits,
exactly.
right? And so if you don't know, right, as if I'm a quarterback and I can't run the ball, I bet not run.
Because
I
if I
bet
try,
not run. I
I'm
better
myself.
hand the ball off. If
Exactly.
I better hand the ball off.
Mm-hmm.
I better as soon as possible get the ball to the one who can make a play,
Yeah.
right? If I'm going to be a decision maker in my life and I'm going to team up with other decision makers, right? Then I need to know my limits and my capacity. Say, well, I can't really do this. I'm going to need someone else to help me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so like that selfishness is really like self identification,
Self-awareness.
right? It's
Yeah.
like what's on my ID, right? My eyes, my eye color, my hair color, my height, my weight, right? My date of birth, right? So when I ID myself, right, as a member of a team or as a potential member of a team, I need to have some idea, some parameters of like who am I?
Mhm.
And if I don't know what my needs are, right, what my wants are, what my preferences are, and I come in trying to fit someone else's mold, right? Or I'm not sure if they even fit what I want. I'm just walking into the spiked wall in a video game, pretty much. It's like you just splat. At some
Splat.
point, you're just gonna impale yourself with the truth
Mhm.
I just had to
because
say,
that's the thing you're not aware of is the truth.
no, I mean, you're right. You're right. And I just want to say, because, I mean, when you see, this is the thing. This is it. You said splat, but on the other end, you said like coming out of a relationship. And I just want to say this
Mhm.
for posterity's sake, for like historical sake, because I know this is going to be trapped in digital media forever. I just want to apologize to every person that I said I ever loved that I ain't sticking out with. I just want to apologize right now. I just want to say I'm sorry to all my exes, any girl I ever crushed on, because I didn't love me.
Mm.
It is so real.
Facts.
Like when you said that,
Facts.
me going back to that 25, 26-year-old self, that's what
Mhm.
it was. I had to learn how to love me, right? I love my family. I love my girl at the time, right? But I wasn't loving me.
Mhm.
I couldn't do anything if I didn't. How can you utter the words if you don't have grasp of what that looks like for yourself on a day to day,
Yeah.
right?
It's Pop Warner love.
Pop Warner love. It really is. It's
it's,
that practice. It's
it's like
that baby. Let me. You gonna have to run them
it's
laps
it's
because you need to.
it's
You
not
need to.
varsity. It's not college. It's
It
not
ain't.
football. It's
It
it's
is.
not it's not pro at
It's
all.
mighty
It's
mites.
just it's
Okay.
mighty.
It's the pee wees.
You
Okay. Junior
you
pee
are
wee.
you really because you really think you winning something. You really think, but what you getting is this little consolation trophy.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing is that
That's
like
that's the
it's
size of your love. That's the capacity of your love. Is this
and you
little
need to know
consolation
that.
trophy with no name on it, right? It's this cookie cutter, right? What someone else has told me love is,
It's
right?
true.
It's
Someone
an
else's
external
definition.
it's an external society description of what love is on this trophy, right?
Exactly. Right. You watching Disney
And
movies, you watching TV, you looking at your parents. They ain't got nothing. Look, they was your superheroes till you realize they all had kryptonite, right? Like
Exactly.
it's one of those things where everybody your superhero, everybody you can't nothing they then you get to a point where you realize, wait, I know a little bit more than you about this, right?
mm,
I might have to nurse you back to health. Now I
Mhm.
gotta be there for you having a breakdown. Now I gotta be there to help. And it's like, wait, but you told me this is what love was. And now I
mm.
gotta go figure it out. You
It's
were wrong.
yeah.
I'm wrong.
Can I
We
tell you
are
that's a
wrong.
wild thing? Realizing that when you get older and you realize your parents were wrong about so many things,
Like,
and
y'all
then
was
you
tripping. Y'all was wilding out. It was about surviving, right? And I'm
know,
thankful for the survival. But let's be clear. The
yeah,
world, as much as it is expansive, it is getting closer and closer and closer to be small. And the thing is, once you get closer to more people and you see more, you realize, wait, there's different experiences that are happening and there's different truths that are occurring. And some of them apply to myself.
mhm.
And so when you said that, I just had to say, like, I am sorry. I am sincerely. I say it with a smile because it is wrapped up in this idea of, yes, I was running up against a spiked wall,
You
but
were
in
going.
reality, I was going splat. And I just have to say with so much sincerity that I know I was wrong and I'm sorry because I just didn't know how to love me. Right.
Can I
And
say that there are so many women out there, I'm sure, that appreciate that apology, and men too, because women do it as well. Women
it's
do it.
true. It's true. It goes both ways. And it's just, we got to own that so we can grow from that, so we can learn from that, so we can heal from that, because there's the harm in that. And that's the thing that I just wanted to say. But going back to what, I said, what what is the practices for you look like in defining those boundaries amongst the people who you do love?
Yeah. So um I graduated from high school and I moved away from home. I went off to college. I left college and moved to Colorado. I left Colorado, moved to California. So I lived on my own for like 14 years. And then COVID happens and I moved back to Georgia and I literally end up moving into my brother's old room in my parents' house. So after like almost 15 years of living on my own, I find myself not only back in this place, I'm not just back at my parents' house. I'm back in the house I grew up in. So there's memory, there's history, there's all these different things to combat. There's this new me that I am right now that is so different than the person who left this house at 18. There's this person here who is so different than the person that my family was used to interacting with on a daily basis. Because I would come home and visit and we would talk on the phone and all that stuff, but it's different being in someone's physical presence all the time. And so I had to realize, and I'm still realizing, that as much as I love my family and they love me, or my parents rather, because both my brothers are off on their own, doing their own thing. And it's so crazy because I had always prided myself on the fact that I'm the only kid who never had to move home. And then I ended up here and I'm like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. So there was a lot of humility that had to come with that. There was a lot of perspective that had to come with that. There was a lot of me realizing, come on now. There was a lot of me realizing that God literally set it up this way, because what I didn't realize is in those 14 years of me refusing, like, no matter how bad it got anywhere I lived in the world, I was like, I ain't going back home though. I'll sleep under a bridge. I lived in my car a couple of times and I was like, that's fine because it's not home. But now that I'm here, realizing that God literally set it up like this because there were things that I needed to confront, to heal from, so that they don't continue to not only just hinder me, but generationally hinder my family. Like there's a lot of stuff that has had to come out and be dealt with now that I'm home and I have the tools and the maturity to address these things with my family in a way that can actually be helpful and not just turn into a yelling match where everybody hates each other at the end. So what I say that because redefining my boundaries with my family has been a huge challenge because I'm literally living down the hall from my parents. So what does that look like? That means I got to get out and make sure I have plenty of alone time. I go work out with my best friend every morning. That is my time to be away from home. Come on, Alex, shout out to the workout grind. I do yoga every day in my room by myself. Like I literally have arranged my room to be a safe haven for me. When you come into my room, it literally feels like you came into a different, so you don't even realize you're in the same house. The carpet is different. Like there's
in California.
Yeah, literally my room looks like I just picked up my Bay Area life and just moved it to Georgia. I love it. But I had to make this, it's like, this is not, I love my parents, but I want to live with them. You know, I'm 30 something years old. I don't want to be living here with them, but I can't change that at the moment. But what can I change? I can make sure that this space works for who I am. So I've set my room up to work for me. I've got my workspace. I've got my yoga space. I've got my meditation space. I've got pictures. I got things in this room that make me feel comfortable, make me feel safe, make me feel like me. If I ever need to get out, hey fam, love you guys. Gonna go stay with this friend while I, COVID safe friend, while I, recover for a little bit. And then I come back. There has to be a lot of open communication with my family about my process. I learned that the hard way after I went through something and did not openly communicate with them about how I was doing, and it caused a huge problem. So now it's like, all right, I have to be okay with telling you when I'm mad, when I'm sad, when something's bothering me, when things are okay. I have to let you know those things so that they don't just become these unspoken ghosts. You know what I mean? So what the process for redefining the boundaries with my family and the people closest to me looks like right now is over communication. Over communication. Say everything. Even if they didn't need to know, tell them anyway. Because you don't know. Say it again. You already said it before. Say it 3 more times. Because it's important that I communicate to my family where I am and how I'm doing, so that they don't like cross the line, or I don't cross the line that makes the other person or someone feel offended, that grows this grudge that turns into this big thing. Next, 10 years later at Christmas dinner, you still ain't speaking to somebody for something that you perceived happened in the hallway that wasn't even a thing, but nobody ever talked about it. And that right there is actually the history of my family. And I really do feel like God allowed me to come home so I could recognize those things and just start taking sledgehammers to them. So now I talk about everything that bothered me, that made me upset, that hurt my feelings. I feel like crying. I walked into the living room today and just sat there on the floor. Mom was like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Nope, I feel like crying. I just feel like crying." She goes, "Oh, okay. Do you need to cry right now?" I was like, "Probably." At the risk of looking absolutely insane, this is what we're doing. Did you guys hear that? That's my nephew. I think he just woke up. Oh,
Speaking of crying,
I know.
somebody, you need a crier?
On cue.
What?
That's my
put me in,
3-year-old
coach.
nephew.
put me. I got this. That's so good.
I mean, it's so real. Like you right. Like you have to lead with that level of honesty and transparency and like just forward communication and being consistent. Like, because people just don't know. Like one, just as much as you may know someone, you don't fully know how they learn, how they hear it, how they receive it. And so it's important to figure out how many different ways can I say the same thing so you can hear and feel what I got to say. Because it is one thing for me to tell you, it's another thing for you to understand it, right? Like if, as they say, like, what is the word? If communication is the key, comprehension is the lock, right? And that's the thing, is that people often think about the key, they don't figure out what lock is it going into, right? And so, when you're sitting there and you're like, I'm gonna sit in front of you and I'm just gonna be very honest front, like I gotta cry. It is important to say that. It's important to just, because you're just communicating what is going on. But we've created all these buffers and all these societal stigmas to say, oh, well, like the first thing that people always say, well, if you're gonna do boxing and you get punched, you better not cry. And it's like, no, you better cry.
Yeah,
You better let that out. It hurt. You need to know what that pain felt like, because now you're gonna put them techniques into practice, right? To not get punched, right? Now you understand the level of commitment that you need to have to taking these punches, right? So it's okay to cry it out, because at the end of the day, that is what needs to happen. It is happening within you. Do not fight what is happening within you, because then that's when you start to build up this level of resentment, or you start to build up all of these behaviors that are repressed or oppressed. And that is not serving anyone. It is not serving you.
Come
right?
on.
You gotta give that, right? If we're here, if you love me, accept me for as I appear, accept me as I am, accept me for what I have to give, especially if I'm not causing you harm and I'm just communicating through my tears. I'm communicating.
Just like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
Harm is being done to me.
Yep.
Okay.
Just like a 3-year-old.
You come on. What is the most honest form of communication? I need to respond. I need to be responsible to that, right? But for some strange reason, once you get to a certain point in life, everybody's like, no, I don't want that no more. I don't want the responsibility. I don't want to feel obligated to come. If you cry, I'm gonna feel obligated to either cry with you, or I'm gonna feel like I gotta do something. Oh well,
You ain't got.
you here with me? You not? Let me know. Just let me do me. At the end of the day, let me do me. Let me be me. Let me show you. Let me communicate to you. Can we stop with the stigma? Can we stop with the putting up these walls? Because we lose more than we gain, right? When you don't share and you don't give out and you don't, we just talked about it. We just talked about it last week. We talked about people who are in leadership positions who we take for granted because they're there to serve us. Who's there to serve them, right? They repress, they hold down, they suppress, I'm gonna put it away. I'm gonna put it off. I'm not even gonna deal with it. And then what happens? You fall apart. You become that wall that gets created from you. Everything you don't let out becomes another brick in a wall. That's all it is. You building up this wall between you and the rest of the world. And as much as everyone likes to think they're isolated, as much as everyone thinks that, oh well, and it don't affect me. We all have those things, right? We all got those impact markers. We all have those moments. And so I just want to say, I'm glad you said it, because it is true. Like, you have to speak in those very transparent and just very just clear terms, very direct, right? Very black and white. Ain't no shades and nothing. I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna cry, and that's what it's gonna be. I feel like crying, I'm gonna cry. And if I can't cry, well, at least you know where I'm at, even if I can't produce the tears. So, I just want people to hear how much it is similar, but also the differences, because it is necessary, as we say many times, as I've spoken many times, boundaries, right? If B spoke it and B plants it and B about it, be about that balance, but also B, right, is going to be able to just be you, be yourself, right? Be bountiful, be boundless, like limitless in what it is that you have to offer and that you have to give. But it's also like, you got to be honest, and you got to be clear with those around you. So, I appreciate hearing that a lot.
That's what's up.
Speaking of appreciating hearing, I heard you brought some art with you.
You heard right. You heard right.
I heard you've been working on some things in the last week.
I have. So I have been told for many, many years, Brittany, you need to write a book. Brittany, you need to write a book. And I've been like, I don't want to. No, I don't want to. And then COVID happened, and I had like no job at the time. Thank God I have a job now. I'm really grateful. It's funny. I moved all the way to Georgia just to get a job in San Francisco. It's so funny.
But that's right. That's the balance you needed.
It is. Oh my God, it definitely is. Like my life wasn't working in the Bay, but my life in the Bay works in Georgia, if that makes any sense, which I'm really grateful for.
Bars.
Yeah. So I sat down one day just to process my feelings about some stuff and realized that I had written the foreword to my book. And I was like, oh snap, okay. And then I put it down and didn't touch it for months. And then I went through this pretty traumatic experience a couple of weeks ago. And just, again, part of my healing process when I go through anything is to write. Like I tell people all the time, I did not become a poet because I thought it was cool. I became a poet to keep my sanity. I started it for my own healing. And if my healing helps other people heal, then that's cool. But I started it for myself first. And so went through this traumatic experience with this really unexpected and pretty awful breakup. I hadn't dated anybody in like 10 years and then decided to give it a shot. And it was a total shit show, for lack of a better word. And so part of my way of processing that was to write. And so whenever I sat down to write my feelings, it just came out in poetry. And I realized this is chapter 3 of my book. I don't know what chapters 1 and 2 are yet, but this is definitely chapter 3. So, this piece is called What They Say About Unicorns. And I'll let you listen to it. I'm just going to warn you in advance. I'm going to use my number 3 with this one. They said that pain would make me a better artist, and heartbreak would give me a steady flow of ink to my pen, as if pain is the parent company of Bic and all things ballpoint writing utensil. I said, fuck that. We don't need to be sad to make good art, and poetry is the beautiful sunrise after a beautiful night when no one died, with no weapons, with no weeping to endure, and we didn't have anything to cry about. And for a moment, my pen spouted rainbow-colored prose and sunshine limericks that any unicorn would be proud to recite, because unicorns are happy, and they do not cry. But today, heartbreak puts this theory to the test, and my pen is working overtime, finding every possible way to write healing onto paper. She's so creative when she's bleeding. Silly woman, for thinking that anything beautiful comes without bloodshed. The only reason the sunrise is beautiful is because the hours of darkness that came before it. The only reason life is beautiful is that the effects of living are so temporary. The only reason you are an artist is because pain has tried to make you his bitch, and you turned him into a lullaby that you'll sing to your daughters one day. And the books you'll litter history with, they say, that the best artists are born from suffering. We are the magicians making misery into masterpieces, turning heartbreak into blockbuster sensations. This wound, take this wound, and stitch it up with poetry and storytelling, just for now, until it's time to bleed again.
Bars. Stitch it up till it's time for it to bleed again. That's
Uh,
clean.
that's some of my new spit.
Thank you.
Some of my new spit.
Nah, I appreciate it. Thank you for that. I mean, it hits me in the soul in terms of it's nothing to destroy. It takes everything to build.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The pyramids is still here.
Yeah.
Right? The pyramids is still here. Someone had to build that. It don't take nothing to blow it up. It don't take nothing to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's that like because when you said that whole part, the whole me paraphrasing, but what you said was it's not that life extends and lives on forever. It's that it's just a moment in time that makes it beautiful, right? And it's that realization that it's limited, right? Because if you had it and you didn't worry about it, you would grow tired of it, right? People all the time talk about I can't eat that no more. It was my favorite meal, but I done did it too much, right? That's the same way I see that line when it comes to life, right? If you don't grasp it and you live in fear of the thought, you forget what would happen if you had it forever. You would grow very weary. You would grow very tired. You would understand that, you know what? I've had too much of it. And that's the thing, right? Going back to what I said, dosage makes the poison. Well, you better grasp that bit of life you got because it is beautiful, right? And everything that you said was a reflection of that, of the encompassing the pain that we all experience in different capacities. But with what you said, it was about taking it on and not letting it define you in the sense that this will be this will be my tears and my cry. This will now be my lullaby, right? This will be the thing that I will be able to pass down to my next of kin, my generations, and have them be able to go to sleep to what would keep me awake. Like, like people like really peep the game that was put down. It's deep, right? And you got to really think about how and what that is, because a lot of times, like I mean, I just call it out. I had a conversation with my little cousin, and I said I'm responsible to my trauma, and immediately they was like, "Nah, nope, not me, nope, trauma. What that mean? What that got to do with me?" And I'm like, "Hold on, I've been through so much, and I've experienced so much from others that I have to be responsible, so I don't pass it on to the next person. I don't pass it on to the next generation, and that I don't create that for someone else, right? Because the trauma was done, and I've seen how it's done its damage, it's done its harm, and I don't want that to happen, right? And I think that with what you said, it gives me that reflection, that moment to be like, yes, I can see the beauty in it. I can own this. I can move and walk away from it. And I can use it to help others, to maybe heal, to repair. And I think that is just like, it's majestic as it is magical in what you said, but it also speaks to who you are and, everything you said with us on this podcast, but all the little moments in between that I've got to share, that I can surely say Affluent has got to share, and that the Lyrical Opposition family has got to share, right?
Yes.
So Bspokeit, as much as I appreciate your time, I want to honor your time, and I thank you for your time. Is there any closing thoughts, closing words, anything you want to give to the people, share, anything coming up, anything you got going on? I mean, this is it. Have at it.
Yeah. So 2020 has been a great year of like cocoon time for me. So 2021 is going to be the launch of a lot of cool stuff from Bspokeit. I'm dropping a new podcast in January called Black Girl Sticky Notes, where the premise of it is just unpacking this the enigma of what it means to be a Black woman. So we're gonna be interviewing different Black women from all over, just to get a different perspective about what it is to be a Black woman from multiple different people. I'm super excited about this podcast. It's been in the works for a long time, so you can look out for that on IG. I'll be dropping Black Girl Sticky Notes is a live IG handle that I have. I just haven't posted yet, but keep on the lookout for that. I got a new camera, so I'm working on all my content to be dropping soon. Podcast is gonna launch on my birthday in January. Like I said earlier, I got a book coming out in 2021. It's going to be called Levity, the Book of Joy and Lamentation. And just stay on the lookout for more poetry, more prose, more thoughts from Bspokeit the Poet. And let me also say, my Lyrical Ops fam, I love y'all. I am super honored that y'all asked me to come do this. It's so funny. Like, Christian's going to hear this later. And I remember Christian in 2018 when I was like, bro, where's our podcast though? 2019, bro, where's our podcast though? So I'm really glad that 2020, after I leave the Bay, is the year y'all do this. This is great.
But your checks still come from the Bay.
This is true. You are right.
So you ain't that far away.
Still come from the Bay. Oh, this is true. This is true. So I love y'all so much. I'm super honored to still be found, still be in community with y'all. So thank you. This was a great discussion, by the way. Y'all are doing a great job.
Right on. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. We love you as well.
Love you, bro.
Just to,
Appreciate
that. we try to keep, this is a space for healing and every all intents and purposes harm reduction, right? Like, at the end of the day, there's enough harm to go around in this world, and we trying to create a space where that don't exist, right? We can speak to it, but we trying to move away from it, right? And what we moving to? Health, wealth, and happiness, right? Safety, peace, and love. And I think that, when it comes to lyrical opposition, right, it's LO versus everyone, especially in that regard. It is LO versus everyone. And so, I think that it's just, I appreciate you taking the time out and being vulnerable, being honest, being open, and sharing so much, because I know this will serve so many people. It has definitely served me. It is healing to me. This gives me that ability to kind of just keep pushing when I want to just be like, man, I'm ready to tear it up. But again, right, I gotta have some restraint, have some control, and find that balance. And I'm glad I was able to, for real, I'm glad you was able to share with me and give me so much time to reflect on so many different moments through what you said. So I appreciate you, Bspokeit. Thank you, Bspokeit. Bspokeit. Again, this is episode 26 of Lyrical Ones podcast. Bspokeit is our guest. That is Bspokeit. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, and Bspokeit's website, bspokeitpoetry.com. I repeat, bspokeitpoetry.com. That's B as in boy, S as in Sam, P as in Paul, O as in Oscar, K as in key, E as in Edward, I as in Iowa, T as in Terry, poetry.com. Okay, I'm trying to, give y'all the space to write it down, get it together, rewind it if you need to. For those that got the audio only version, bspokeitpoetry.com. So, Bspokeit, thank you for your time.
Yes, thank y'all.
Enjoy your time off if you have any, and we gotta do this again.
We sure will. Y'all let me know.
For sure.
Awesome.
Bspokeit.
Yes.
I'm proud of you. I love you. Tell your family, tell your sister, your best friend, what's up.
She'll be glad to hear.
LO's, it's not the same, without y'all, but we're better because you guys were here. And so I appreciate you. We carry you with us and everything. So we're glad you could revisit with us today. And I'm excited for your 2021 and your poetry, and your growth and your trajectory. I'm excited for you. Good to see you. Good to hear from you. Great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thanks for staying up with us.
You're welcome. I'm going to bed now. Y'all saw my over here.
Yes. And enjoy your authentic meals tomorrow.
Yeah, we barbecuing. That's what we doing tomorrow.
Yes. It's however you freak it is, it's all right. That's all that matters is you do it with the fam and your loved ones. That's all. However you freak it, it's all
It ain't
good.
about what they tell us the day is for. They gave us the day off. We gonna make it work.
Come
Okay, we gonna make it work.
Y'all know I ain't taking the day off. You know I'm working
not
early in the morning.
not you, not you. Okay, not Alfluent, but B. You do what you got to do. Okay, you get that meat, smoke that meat, char that meat, eat the meat. Yeah, we out here barbecuing. You feel me?
Thank you,
Georgia, we on our
Bspokeit.
way. LO in Georgia, it's happening soon. We gonna figure this out. Let's get this
Let's do
pandemic out of the
it.
way. You feel
Let's
me?
do it.
Hey, peace.
Bye, y'all.
Till next time, indeed. So, as we like to do at this time, right? We have announcements. Join
Announcements.
our Lyrical Assembly Reads for Resistance book club that happens every Saturday at 9 a.m. This week, we are reading chapter 3 of the book, Decolonizing Evangelicalism. If you are interested in joining,
Evangelicalism.
evangelicalism, right? I fumble with that
Boom.
word every week. Evangelicalism. As long as this word keeps coming up, I'm going to keep fumbling with evangelicalism. All right.
Bars.
Evangelicalism. Anime. All right.
Nice.
Chapter 3 of the book, Decolonizing Evangelicalism. If you are interested in joining, email Lacey at lyricalopposition.org to join. That is LACY at lyricalopposition.org. Okay. Second, if you want to get connected to our online community, join us on our Discord community server. Text Lyrical Opposition at 415 903 7699. I repeat, that is 415 903 7699. Once again, for the people who don't want to rewind, 415 903 7699. Get connected to the Discord. And the Lyrical Assembly broadcasts every week on Sunday at 10 a.m. I say that every week, Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tune in if you're interested to learn or have or share with faith, arts, and activism. That's the Lyrical Assembly broadcast every Sunday. So on Saturdays, 9 a.m., Lyrical Assembly Reads for Resistance Book Club. That is Saturday, 9 a.m. Sundays, right? 10 a.m., that is the Lyrical Assembly broadcast, right? And then every time in between, Discord. Get on it. 415 903 7699. So get connected, stay connected. We out here in these interwebs. You know what I'm saying? The internets. We out here in these zeros and ones, binary codes. Get connected with the LO family. Okay. Alfluent, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm energized from the conversation. It's always nice to have your people come through and drop gems, give you tools for navigating this world, and just really think about things that we can do to interact and become closer with our family through over communication. I thought that was really poignant.
Definitely.
And simple in theory, but it's a tough task at times. It takes just takes routine, takes humility, takes trust, takes respect, and we have to continue to move toward being ourselves so that people know who we are, so they can love us for who we are. I think I think that's what America is going through right now, really. Like, you can't really say you love America if you don't know what it's up to. Um, and I think a lot of people are coming to terms with what America has been up to for a long time now. And so hopefully they can love love the dream and whip the country into shape.
Practice. It's all practice. You said that, and then, it reminded me of the video you sent everybody in the group chat where it's the Dave Chappelle, right? He's talking 18 minutes, and like, look, me, my name's Sin, right? I gotta represent, right? And I'm saying that to say this, right? I'm not Christian by any means. I'm not any one deity, right? You hear the songs, I say Buddha Allah Yahweh, right? The Bay, you get it, Buddha Allah Yahweh. You only gonna get it here. You ain't gonna never hear me say that again. No interview, nothing. Buddha Allah Yahweh, it's the Bay, right? And the thing is that to me, it's about having that faith, right? Whatever that faith is, try to find it, because hope is chance, faith is choice. And I'm saying that because I don't have hope I'll make it. I have faith in me that I'm gonna make it, right? I hope for better days, but I have faith I'm gonna make some great days, right? And so the thing is, when you sense that, that was a critical and pivotal moment for me in the week, because I was having my own little okay, this is what I'm going through, this is what I'm seeing in front of me. And I'm looking at somebody who I confided in when I was a young man, Dave Chappelle, right? Like, I confided in him through his comedy, his art, right? The way that his platform was structured was, here's a black man in America, and he's giving us that real, that raw, that authenticness that I don't see around me, right? When you're looking at these shows, the Dave Chappelle show, you're looking at a glimpse of what's inside you being magnified, right? And it's the most rewarding feeling, because you can identify with this man. For me, it was, right? And so when you send me that, and he's talking about what that show means to him now, and I have to reflect on like my association, my relationship, right? I haven't really watched the show since I was that time period. Like, when he left, it like a piece of me, I left the show. Like, I was like, you know what? I'll find him when I find him, right? And in this, there's a line he says that I was the night before, and I've always said the story to people, where I was a young child and I was going to my summer program, and my friend's mother was in the car, and I'm saying, "Do you know what's in hot dogs?" And I was breaking down everything in it. And the mother has said,
This
Arsenio, not everyone wants to know what's in hot dogs. And I was like, but I do, right? My young, ignorant self, I can't comprehend what the mother's really saying to me. Not everyone wants to know, right? And I'm like, but I do. I'm still going to eat it. I just want to know, what am I eating, right? It tastes
Chappelle's like,
good.
you deserve to know what's in the hot dog you
You
eating.
deserve to know. Like, he said it after all this long, this incredible gripping story about his experience, and what it means to be a man, to be an entertainer, to be in this society, and to have this, everybody's like, oh, Dave Chappelle, he got paid, he was rich. And it's like, yo, that's further from the truth, right? He breaks it down, and at the end of it all, he says, you deserve to know what's in the hot dogs you eat. And to me, that was the most validating confirmation moment that I could have had all week. In this one little slice, I was like listening to 18 minutes of him going, and he gets to that 17-minute mark, and he say that, and I'm like, we here. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good, because we still got that synchronicity, right? Regardless of what anybody wants to say, I'm still
Right. That
linked,
he
right?
that he that he that he's still portraying one of the variants of the black experience, right? That there is someone experiencing, someone's going through, namely you, going through the concept of understanding what's being served to you, right? In every walk of life, right? Not just at a meal, right? But in making your own meal, right? In acquiring meal for your family, in helping someone else get a meal, right? The work and the exchanges and the transactions that are happening, you need to know what's happening, what that system is made of, right? You deserve to know, what that system is made of, so that you can make a choice on whether it's the same way you want to operate. It's like when you learn that you can hide behind the white block on Super Mario 3 and go into the background to get the first whistle. Like, when you learn that, you deserve to know that, because everybody else knows. Yes, it may be a spoiler. The game is 20 years old. It's fine. But like, when you know that, it's like, oh man, you mean I can skip level one, which is, I can skip world one. I can skip world two. World two is a problem, is annoying. And I could just skip all this. right? And it's there for me. It's not a cheat. It's just educate. I can now make an educated choice on how to move forward and how much time I want to spend on steps that may hinder me with the limited amount of time that I have or the limited amount of resources I have. I may want to expend them on world 4 and not on world 2 and world 3, right? When I learned that, okay, I grew up getting free lunches, and now it's kids growing up getting free lunches, and the system is the same, and the food is the same, and nothing has changed, and I can make an impact in some way, right? I can provide more information, right? I can speak to some restaurants and who are struggling and help them now feed some families or feed some workers, right? There's things that can be done. You deserve to know that it's a possibility. You deserve to know that the celebrity doesn't always get what they deserve, right? And not just in a negative sense. Sometimes for the positive too. Sometimes they earn and they don't get what they earn. Sometimes like the what is it, the paycheck doesn't always match the status. And which I think it's really right. That's really what the narrative is, right? It's like you you need to know more about who's creating that negative, who's funding that narrative, and how does it benefit them, and who is it harming. Like sometimes we got to know that the narrative is harming us, right? We deserve to know that the narrative that's being spun, that's being pitched, um is harming us. And you know, that's all I got to say about that. That's
I
my
mean, but
short
it but
story,
it but it's real though. It's
my
like
short take.
it is a thing where in order for you to play the game, you got to know how to play it, right? Like sometimes you can't just jump in, right? You might not you ain't gonna get no other life, right? Mario, you start over, but you're learning in the process, right? From failure. And a lot of times, what happens in this world we live in, they want you to fail and let that failure carry on for the rest of your life, right? They want you to fail and they want that failure to, when you become a felon, you're marked as a felon, right? When you sign a contract, the contract a lot of times is in perpetuity, right? When I say perpetuity, that means for the rest of your life. As long as we exist, as long as we as entities exist, we gonna maintain this relationship that we have, right? And now you got to ask yourself, right? In Mario, you fail, you come back, you play again, right? In life, you fail. Sometimes you don't get a do over, or sometimes you got to fight your way through it. You got to break it. You got to find a way to break it. Because to me, in this time that we living in, yes, let's celebrate, let's rejoice, but be mindful, right? Once this break is over, right? We're recording this Wednesday. It is November 25th. The year is 2020. As the traditional historians call it, this is Thanksgiving, right? Thanksgiving is coming upon us, right? And for me, it's a moment of reflection where, I'll kind of leave it with this. In what world but this one do you have a holiday that is treated as though it was this great historical event when it is really one of the hallmarks of genocide, tragedy, and horror for a whole people, for a nation of people, right? I am thankful that I am here. I am thankful that I am permitted, right? Because that's the thing that we gotta pay attention to. I'm permitted, right, through the work I do or through the different attachments I have. I can have space to spend time with my family, spend time with the ones I love, to be able to break bread and have a moment of peace. I'm thankful for all that, but I am never going to forget why. I will never lose sight of why. And I think that we have to know the why. We have to know what's in the hot dogs we eat. We need to know what goes into the systems we are part of. We need to know how these things came to be. And so, for me and where I'm at and what I'll leave this on is, be thankful, but be ever mindful of how you got here, why you're here, and what do you want to do while you have this, right? So, Affluence, you have any closing thoughts, closing ideas, any closing words for us?
We got just basically 5 weeks left in the year. Today, November 25th, is somebody's, International Stop the Violence Against Women Day. Um, it could be all of ours, but um, every day should be Stop the Violence Against Women Day. And, we need to talk about consent. We need to teach males, young males, old males, large, small, medium-sized males, uh, old and young males, charismatic, non-charismatic, bored, otaku males. You teach them all about consent. Um, what that means, um, and we shouldn't have to teach people how to not be victims. We should teach people not to victimize people, um, not to attack people, not to take advantage of people, not to manipulate folks. Um, and that's the work that we got to do as a community. It starts with cousins and brothers and nephews and friends and coworkers, colleagues, associates. Calling people out when you see it. Call the behavior out when you see it. Be eyes, be ears, um, and be a voice for people um, when they need it, and then be a pedestal and a platform and a crane and a forklift for those when they need it. Because folks don't need to hear me speak. Um, they need to hear Bspokeit. Um, it's so yeah. That's all. I just want us to do better. Um, can always do better. You know, call out the language, and then call out the behavior, and then check yourself and identify where you fall short, and keep getting better. Um, yeah, I'm all about getting better. So tomorrow's the feeding. That's just what I call it. It's me and
The
my family. We
feeding.
call it the
It
feeding.
is the feeding.
Yeah, no, that's it. You get a day off to feed. It's not defined by much else. It's right. It's an indulgent day. You can moderate that, as best you can. But don't moderate the love. Don't moderate the trust and respect and integrity. Um, overload on that. Indulge in that. More integrity. Um, more EQ. Um, more hope. More love. More community. Emphasis on the unity.
You got it right. You got it right. This is episode 26 of the Lyrical Ones podcast. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being here with us. But per the usual, since we got back to it, we got to do it in only the way that we
Yeah.
can. If things want to get it together and actually, oh, well, look at me. I'm tripping. You see, the thing about me being on here, those that don't know, I am a sucker for old technology. And, there's
Oh,
a,
you went
there's a
backwards, huh?
there's a cord that needs to be plugged into something that wasn't plugged in. So, I like how that just all of us we're gonna do that. We're gonna bring that back one more time. We're gonna do that one more again. We gonna here we go. This is how it's supposed to go.
One. 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 Yeah. 2020 is almost done. Fourth quarter. Make the most of it. It can be great. If you make it that way,